This is, once again, another framework. I love tables, guys. Another framework of how we can apply the methodology. So, like I said earlier, there's research GPTs, skill-based GPTs, and human touch. So, a very simple framework for a blog, something that they probably teach you in grade school is maybe not grade school, but definitely college. First, you brainstorm, then you do research on the topic that you chose, then you build out your blog, you build out all of the sections, everything you want to write about, your subtopics, and then you add support and citations so that the blog is strong and blog article. And lastly, you polish it up. You make sure there's no fluff. You make sure that it reads well, it's concise, things like that. And so what I did here to try and simplify what I'm explaining is I added a dot anytime that I think that you would be using a certain tool during each stage. So during brainstorming, research and skill-based, during research, naturally research GPTs, and so on and so forth. All of this framework, this table, and what I've shown before is all on the cheat sheet. So you will have it, you'll be able to download the PDF and see this framework and go back to it as much as you'd like in the future. All right, so I'm going to go through this framework and explain it a bit more in a bit more detail. So first, brainstorm. So for brainstorm, you can use pretty much everything you want. Creativity has no limits, right? So skill-based GPTs, research GPTs, honestly, your own mind, your imagination, you're brainstorming, you're trying to come up with as many ideas as you can for your blog. Once you come up with the best idea or the idea that you'd like to do, you will insert it into a research GPT. So in this case, in my example that I have here, I put it into Keymate. You could put it into Google Scholar if you'd like. You can put it into Consensus. You can put it into any GPT that focuses on researching information, right? So in this example, my topic that I picked was, what are the differences between marketing in the United States versus marketing in Europe? So that is my topic. I'm telling my research GPT that's my topic. And it's telling me, well, marketing practices between the US and Europe display significant differences, such as marketing spend and strategy, regulatory environments, so on and so forth. Okay. So it's giving me all my information. I'm reading through it. I like it. I'm ready to move on to my next step. And that is building out my blog. Honestly, and for any of these sections, you could build out your blog yourself. You already know what you're writing about. You just write it out. That's fine. But I like to go ahead and use a blog assistant because that helps kind of fill that blank page and create some structure to what you're writing about and just makes it easier to go in and edit because it gets rid of that blank page feeling, which I think is common for anyone who does copywriting. So you put that research that your GPT found into your blog assistant or whatever blog GPT you want to use, and it's going to build it out for you. So for example, here it wrote out comparing marketing strategies, United States versus Europe, and it goes into the introduction and the subtopics. Okay. So after this, I want to start to build support for my blog. So I have my blog ready and I like my subtopics, but I need a bit more. I need a bit more meat. I need a bit more links to my sources. And so that's what I'm using Research GPT once again for, right? So if I have a subtopic that says religion, and that's the example here. Religion is a big contributor to marketing differences between the United States and Europe. I'm going to go back to my research GPT and say, hey, tell me more about these religious differences between the US and Europe and how do they affect marketing? And so it's response, instead of before, it gave me a more overview of all of the differences between the US and Europe marketing. Now it's only focusing on how religion impacts them. So it's giving me a lot more meat in that section so I can add it to my blog and make my blog stronger. And as an added plus, something I love about Keymate, and I think a lot of other GPTs do this, at the end it'll give you the links to where it's getting what its sources are. And so it's just really nice because it saves you so much time because you have the information and you have the source. All you got to do is add that link or add that citation and you're good to go. So I would do this over and over. It's kind of iterative of researching all of the subtopics and making sure that the blog is really strong. And then lastly, of course, you have your publishing and editing time, which naturally you use a human. You're going to work with a human or a copywriter to do it, and they're going to add that personal touch, add a voice, maybe add some opinion, some humor, um, change up the writing style just to make it as best as it can be for your site. And then the other option too, to save a bit of more time, is using your custom GPT to personalize that blog to your company and to your services. So for example, I could put that blog that I just made into my custom GPT and say, hey, find some good places to point to my services within this blog. And so maybe it's going to go into the section that talks about marketing in Europe, um, and how that differs culturally from the US. And then it'll say, hey, if you need some help with marketing, our company does XYZ, right? And it just kind of saves a bit more time of that personalization. But of course, if you prefer to do that yourself, you can do that. And if you think you're not going to save that time by using the custom GPT, then don't, and just do it yourself, right? Okay. And then the next application is LinkedIn posts, how we're going to use this methodology for LinkedIn posts. One more time, one more table. We have a quick framework, so brainstorming. Then we're going to do prompt engineering, which I know I didn't mention last time. I felt like it was a good idea to talk about it during this example, just because it's not necessary to do prompt engineering when you have GPTs because you can always edit at the end. Prompt engineering essentially just gives you more control over what the results will be, right? So I have my topic, and now I'm going to give you a lot more context into how I want you to write this. So then at the end, my result is way more aligned to what I wanted than maybe if I didn't do that prompt engineering. The result isn't really matching what I wanted, and I have to do a lot more editing and polishing at the end, right? So it's basically prompt engineering is essentially front loading the work of personalization, right? So prompt engineering, you could do it for blogs, you can do it for LinkedIn, or you could do it for neither. It's just an option that I wanted to show you guys, and I'll explain as we move through the slides. Then, of course, you build the LinkedIn post and you polish it up. And sorry, as you can see here, you have the dots that are marking kind of which GPT you would use at each time, or my recommendation for what tool you would use at each section. So brainstorming. This is exactly what we did before for blogs. You're using skill-based GPTs, you're using research GPTs, you're trying to come up with the best idea you can for your topic. Maybe you already have some ideas and you're just trying to narrow it down. And once you have your topic ready, you can move on to doing that prompt engineering, right? This is a prompt formula that I use. I really like it because it works well and it's simple and it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could use whatever prompt formula you'd like if you have your own methods, but this is one that I like and I wanted to share with you guys. So first you define the AI's role, then you give it a specific task. I suggest you use the SMART framework just because if you use the SMART framework, you can't go wrong. It always helps to make your explanations more clear. So use that SMART framework when you're giving it the task. Of course, include any sources or topics that you want. If you're basing it on a specific article from the New York Times, make sure you have that linked in there. Then provide examples of what good looks like, i.e., what your expectations are, what you want it to provide. Maybe you say no fluff or very approachable or very broken down, like bullet pointed, right? Then you specify a framework, which I'll explain in the next slide what that means. And then you identify a tone of voice, casual, friendly, fun, inviting, whatever it may be, professional, formal. So what is a framework? Framework is a nice, maybe I could call it hack for getting the results that you want. The structure, I would call it the structure that you want in your LinkedIn post. So a framework, for anyone who doesn't know, is kind of like this. It's the structure of how information is presented. So for example, in marketing, we often use a framework that's called AIDA, which is attention, interest, desire, action. This is very common for marketing because marketing tends to be selling something, right? So you're getting someone's attention, You're building up interest. Then based off of that interest, you generate a desire. Oh, I want that new purse or I want that new lamp. And then based off of that desire, you give them an action. You can shop for that purse here, or you can shop for that HVAC here. Um, AIDA is very common in marketing, but there's a ton of other options, BAB, FAB, PAS. You can Google very easily some of these frameworks and see which one works best for your business or for your purposes. In the example I'm about to show you, we did use the AIDA framework. So let's see. Here's a quick example. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is right over here. So the role I give it was to be a copywriter. Then I asked it to, so I said, I need you to turn the following news report into a LinkedIn post, showcasing the main points and correlate the story to why companies should enter the United States market. And then I give it its news link. Then going on to number 3, what are examples of good? The post should be actionable, simple vocabulary, non-fluff, approachable. Then, of course, the AIDA framework. And lastly, for one more hack is that instead of saying that the tone needs to be casual yet friendly or professional yet approachable, I just copy and paste my company's LinkedIn URL and I say, please match the style of the writing on this LinkedIn page, and it does a great job. So that's a simple way to simplify the process. So I have my prompt and I'm going to put it into my GPT. In this case, I used a copywriting GPT just because I think it already has a lot of that context that you need for writing anything for promoting a company. But there's a ton of them. Please try out all of